Hello and welcome everybody to this final week. That's right, the final week of this first phase of the SCC. We have an absolutely fantastic fixture on the way, of course, with the Athenian Sages versus the Aaru Scorpions. Well, my name is Judas Priestley. Joining me today will be Alpha Jackal as well, and it's always the most tastiest of fixtures, AJ, today, because we have some massive stakes on the line.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't get any bigger than this. Athenian Sages currently sitting at 3-1. Top two in the split, remind you, go to Masters. And Athenian Sages, they win this, they qualify as top two. Easy as that for them. Their destiny is in their own hands. Same thing for the Scorpions, but down at the bottom end of the table, though. The Scorpions need to have a result here to have a chance of staving off going into the dreaded relegations, which the bottom two teams will have to face.
Yeah, you don't want to be going into relegations, in particularly in bad form. So getting a win towards the end of this phase could be all that much better for them. And of course, you know, for the Sages, they don't want to make it easy on the Sages, do the Scorpions. If they're getting a Masters, they're going to have to earn it. And they're going to have to start earning it in this Game 1 picks and bans as we head on over. Now, of course, this was played on the previous patch, so we will still see, you know, the old favorites coming through. We still expect to see a lot of Aphrodite, still plenty of Vomana coming through. Of course, Hercules, Guan Yu, no changes to Breastplate of Regrowth either. So, as this, you know, we get to the end of this patch before we head on over to the V-Shoujo patch. It's, you know, kind of business as usual. But as it is business as usual, AJ, what are you expecting to see? Or what will be the high priority gods for these two teams?
Same thing we see pretty much every week. Martichorus, Vomana, Hercules, Guan Yu, Aphrodite. Those just pop up left, right, and center. It's been a while since we actually see the Bacchusora and the Merlin ban as the top two here, but the Sages obviously fearing the Aaru Scorpions having these strong, you know, picks for themselves. They aren't necessarily the top tier in the meta, but maybe, just maybe, the Aaru Scorpions have shown a lot of prevalence towards these picks, and the Sages just want to take them away.
Yeah, you always helps to have a bit of knowledge on your opponents. Of course, this is the 5th game week. You know, I'm presuming these teams will have checked each other out extensively by now. And of course, with several weeks of games on this current patch, you know, both teams kind of have it figured out how exactly they want to play. And, you know, lots of gods still on the table, in particular Vomana, still available. I do wonder if that we'll see that one get banned away. Serket, particularly popular in this current meta, but even Hell, as they do get taken off the board. So the top pick, all important, of course, for the Sages. We'll have to see exactly what they opt to go for. But, you know, when you're at this phase, right, both these two teams have had completely differing phases, right? You know, the Sages are coming in 3-1 right now. They've been good. I think it's 3 wins in a row as well. You know, on a high, but the Scorpions maybe coming in a bit on the lower end. Do you feel like they have extra incentive to push for this game?
Well, I think the incentive is just all there. If they win, they have the potential to avoid relegations altogether. And if there's any bigger incentive for a team to do step up, it has to be that. The only bigger thing would be qualifying for a LAN, which unfortunately is what they're coming up against at the Sages. So we're going to see both teams just... I think we're going to see both teams come out of the gates flying, or both teams going to play rather passive, rather defensive Smite. So it's either going to be a very quick, short, high-kill game, or it's going to be a long, drawn-out, tedious chess match between the two.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of spicy picks coming through this phase so far. Every now and then, someone just brings something a bit crazy to the table. But like you say, with how much is on the line for both teams, of course, maybe a little bit more so for the Sages, but, you know, still plenty for the Scorpions. You would expect to see... well, basically, these sorts of drafts coming out, right? Serket, absolutely top pick in the jungle right now. Rama, Guan Yu. Your ADCs are kind of flexible at the moment because Ishtar's fallen away a touch. Haven't seen too much of them lately. Kernino's still good, but Rama, of course, able to provide some safe long-range damage. And Horus Nox coming through. That is one hefty frontline, I presume, coming out from the Sages.
Yeah, this is a composition where if they lock in Persephone as well, I'm instantly F6ing and deleting Smite, because I do not want to face up. I have faced against so many Horuses recently. I am tired of seeing him with how strong he can be in the early game with just outright killing you whilst being a tank. Then you have Nox and Serket on there as well. Serket really strong, giving her buffs when she gets extra crit with leveling up her ultimate. Nox, we don't really have to talk about Nox too much. We do have to talk about this Artio pick, though, as it has been floating around a very tiny bit behind the scenes. I don't think this is the matchup for it. I think going into the Nox, you're going to be hard-pressed by it in the silence. But on the other side, if you get that cripple field off, Horus, Serket, and Nox are all in trouble.
That's a good point, and it is up in the air at the moment exactly where the Artio will go. Could see it in support. I'd probably prefer it in solo, but I'd also prefer Guan Yu in solo. So I'm not quite sure where I'd expect to see both these two, but plenty of sustain already on the side of the Scorpions, and Serket pretty adept at dealing with it, but only on a specific target, so still leaves a lot open right now, and the solo lane, it's presumably locked in there somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where, but someone there surely has locked it in. So what is it about Artio? We haven't seen for a while. You mentioned the cripple field coming through. Is that where maybe you'd expect to see it in support? Is that just to get on top of the enemy team and try to slow them down a bit?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be mainly that cripple field, that large AoE stun, the fact that Artio's, because of the fact that she has 6 different abilities, you're pretty much always doing something. There isn't really much downtime with an Artio when you have loads of cooldown and CDR built onto yourself. And if you're locked in by Nox for 2 or 3 seconds, you have 0 downtime, because your downtime is being just locked up by that Nox. It is just that cripple field, really, which is what we're going to be seeing here from the Artio. If she didn't have that, I don't think she would be even looked at here by the Aaru Scorpions.
It's always considered sort of, a less brave version, shall we say, of Ares. When you need a cripple on the situation, you kind of want, you need the cripple. That's it. A cripple is needed, and Artio is probably the easiest applier of a cripple in the game. It is just an AoE. Basically no skill shot in it. You are just sort of walking around with a big area, but we've touched a lot on the Artio, and we'll have to see exactly how it comes through, especially once we figure out where it goes. But Baba Yaga coming through for the Aaru Scorpion. Seen a lot of this card lately, and I think it might have something to do with Prophetic Cloak.
Might be just for a little bit, maybe, potentially. Who knows, really, why this god is so strong? Mainly because her burst is insane. She's got good safety in the mid lane, good long-range follow-up. It's just pretty much what you want on a mage right now, by being that sort of... As I talked about this last time I was on cast, there's 4 different types of mages, and she sits comfortably in that sort of long-range poke mage sort of slot. Ishtar, you mentioned earlier, has maybe dropped off a little bit, but still I consider to be one of the top gods for the ADC role. And Hebo rounding out the draft. This is a very scary draft for the Sages.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. This is presumably a Hebo in the middle lane, which, is somewhat of an aggressive choice for mid, but it's also slower when you put it in the mid lane. You do have to be more careful of jungle rotations in, of course. Hebo excels in a 1v1 situation, especially in the jungle, right? You can knock up combo someone and just instantly kill them. But in the middle lane, you do have to be a little bit more careful. You can't just go, haphazardly diving your opposing mid lane. Wheelix coming through as well. Not seeing a whole lot of synergy on the side of the Scorpions, but how do you see these two drafts at the moment?
Like you mentioned, the lack of synergy coming out from the Aaru Scorpions means it's all on Miggy to really just hit his abilities, hit those knockups from distance. Ishtar probably is the only one who's going to really go on in terms of getting with that backflip, maybe finding Serket in the jungle while she's in her ambush to jump away. Those are the things I can really see the Wheelix targeting here. So it might be that we see the Athenian Sages go heavy pressure on this solo side, but the Aaru Scorpions go heavy for pressure in the dual lane, which would synergize quite well with the aggressive early game stance that Artio wants to take.
Well, we've seen how the drafts line up, and we will have to be very patient as we wait to see how this game goes ahead. So we will be taking a short break. When we come back, we'll be bringing you the Athenian Sages versus the Aaru Scorpions. Don't go anywhere.
Run for your fucking life. Watch out, they are coming to fight you.
Warning, your mind is warning. Your mind is warning. Your mind is warning. Your mind is
All right, thank you everybody for your patience, but we are just about ready to go. So, before we jump on in, here is your final reminder of the picks and bans for both of these two teams. But we saw how they draft, let's see how they play as we head on into game number 1 between the Athenian Sages and the Aaru Scorpions. Now, we said, AJ, in the build-up that we might expect both these two teams to, well, come out swinging early on here.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is going to be that coming out early, coming out strong that we have seen from, especially the Athenian Sages. They're a team historically that have gone on for some wild starts and some wild beginnings. And our Scorpions, they're going to have to match that if they want to stand a chance of staying in this game.
And we did question as well whether it would be a Guan Yu solo or an Artio solo for the Aaru Scorpions. And we have our answer. It is an Artio in the support role. Is this where you'd prefer to see this god today?
Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, having Guan Yu over in the solo lane is a much better option than putting him into the support role. Primitive? What are you doing?
Ooh, Primitive goes for it, doesn't quite get it. That would be one hell of a way to start this final game for the Athenian Sages. But nonetheless, it does that bit of pressure being put on the Artio already. A great catch from Jengaru there with that Cobra's Kiss. Mickey takes a bunch of damage early, as does Jengaru, however. Both these two teams, I think we figured out which one it is. Both of these two teams heading on in aggressively early on.
Yeah, they, like I said, Athenian Sages, they really want to. It fits their playstyle, fits their team comp perfectly, and our Scorpions, like I mentioned, have to match that. And whilst in dual lane, it's not quite been matched so far. In mid lane, they have poked out as good as they've gotten so far, which is good. Solo lane, it's just going to be solo lane, though. I think at the early levels, the Horus is going to struggle a bit, but the second he gets that Golden Blade online, is able to clear the wave effectively, should actually overtake the Guan Yu in terms of lane control.
Yeah, of course, always being able to stun out that Tallow Assault with the Fractures always comes in handy. And we saw some aggression in this dual lane, but it's really not being shown in the health bars. However, Rinjaru takes a few shots there coming out from Gaijay, who's more than happy to box away on this round. But Jengaru with the loop all the way around gets warded out immediately by Anxious. Smelled that one out. That was like a timing attack there coming through from Jengaru, but Anxious spots it, going to contest over this gold buff. It's very low, but it shall go to the Athenian Sages. Migi on the way over, can't impact it, and that's a first small, minuscule, tiny victory for the Athenian Sages.
Yep, first one there, first one down, and, well, another little victory here in the mid lane as the junglers start to box out each other. Shield buff is gone from Shangaru, but he's not going to mind too much, as Migi took a little bit more poke than he really should have done there. And what you saw from Artio earlier, that was level 2 Artio, when doesn't have access to all the abilities. Now that Anxious, has all his abilities, should have rotation of all 6 abilities, will be even more deadly to just go in and start poking out Rinjaru.
Yeah, it was a large amount of damage, especially from a support, and Anxious, here we go, brawling it out again with Rinjaru while holding on to the wave for their teammate. Blue Butts will go down quietly with a whisper on this right-hand side of the map. No one wanting to step too ahead on this side. It seems to be dual lanes where all the action is going to be in these early stages.
Yeah, I predicted Migi would be the one that's going over to dual lane a lot more than Jangaru would do, but so far it has mainly been Jangaru that's been over on this side of the map. Migi followed, didn't get anything done with that follow. Primitive wanted to evade again, but they're sensibly pulling the purple buff all the way back to the tower. And this is probably one of the big advantages that you see in Season 10, is that if you're behind, you have options to stabilize the lane and come back.
Yeah, of course, being able to drag that purple buff to safety. Primitive, no ultimate available yet. Of course, no real way of stealing it, but, you just want to push your opponent sometimes. Maybe not force anything, but if you just convince them to make a mistake, if that buff ends up dragging into tower or something, you always get a small gain. But speaking of small gains, on the left-hand side, the jungler's meeting up over this shield buff yet again. Now, it's going in favor of the Sages. They have it in their territory, and it looks like Migi will just give this one up. Anxious will have to let it go as well. Gaijay, not even interested. Just wants to sit on over on that left-hand lane and keep everything safe. And, well, it was not an explosive first few minutes, but it was certainly higher pace than this. Now both teams sort of settling into their rhythm a bit.
Yeah, Gaijay saying, guys, I'm Brahma. I can't do anything in these fights early game because I have no abilities to damage them with. Can we please chill out for the 10-15 minutes whilst I farm? That's what all Robs want to do. They want to fight if they're at an advantage. They want to farm at every other point.
Yeah, farming up is something that Rama does particularly well. Renjara, they're having a fantastic time just giggling away under that tower. A bit of aggression, of course, from the Scorpions, but nothing too much. Now, Miggy finds an angle to Snaddy. Does have the gravity surge. Will they force the dash away? Gonna hold on to it, and it will actually be to the sky from Snaddy. Does leap afterwards, but out of range of the gravity surge. That was about as effectively as a Horus can avoid a gank.
If he's any closer to Miggy there, I think Miggy gets a big gravity surge pullback from that dash and Snaddy falls down for first blood. Great play, though, I think, from Miggy to hold on to that. Hold on to that ultimate, mainly because if he uses it, Snaddy just gets out for free. It's a bit of discipline to not use your ultimate to guarantee a kill. It almost sounds counterintuitive at times.
Yeah,
but that's something which a lot of players do have to realize at some point.
Yeah, it's all about those micro plays, right? As much as it didn't work out this time, it does force Snaddy to use the ultimate. And in fact, a lot of Horus players actually won't even level the ultimate at that stage. But, maybe, Snaddy recognized the situation, decided they had to level it, and, got the rewards for doing that. So, it's these clever little plays, these micro plays I've mentioned that really make all the difference in these close games. And as much as the Sages are, feeling better about how this phase has gone for them, they still had to qualify it the same way that the Aaru Scorpions did. So the Aaru Scorpions also earned their place. And, well, we're only 6 minutes into this game, but it's looking like a close one.
It is. And if you're wondering why you're seeing Serket have crit numbers without building any crit items on her build, well, you missed the last patch that dropped, not the Vishojo one, the previous one, where every single time Serket levels up her ultimate, she gains passive crit chance. Starts off at 10% at rank 1 and goes to 30% at rank 5. 30% crit chance, just for free. It's absurd. You build Deathbringer, and you have 60% crit chance at level 20.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And of course, in these early stages, the small crits, those just little basic attack crits every now and then, it does make a big difference. It will change exactly how some of these fights will go. Again, we've talked about how micro moments can make all the differences. Anxious takes a tower shot there, getting lifted into the tower, but hold on, Jengaru maybe looking for a micro moment of their own onto Heed, but it shall not appear. And instead, we'll just accept this buff again. No kills happening, but not without trying right now. The teams do want to go for it.
No, and if you have a look at the graphs right now, and look at the scoreline at the top, Aaru Scorpions building up a small, healthy lead right now, about 500 gold. Experience looks like it's going to be pretty much bang on even as all teams and all lanes facing sort of the same level, and they experienced about 153. Gold closing to about that 500 mark, as we mentioned before. Very even first 7.5 minutes here, which, honestly, I would say would favor the Athenian Sages more. You can't look past them when they've got a Hebo and a Serket on their team.
Yeah, it's like you said, you can't look past them because those two gods single-handedly can win a game. You don't want to get to the point, if you're the Scorpions, where that's even a possibility, but it can go that way. They do have the control, the damage within both of their kits to do it themselves. Now, our Scorpions probably have a pretty good way of dealing with that across the board. Bear and Airy with that home sweet home, actually pretty safe from Serket. You can react quickly, increase the distance between the two of you, and make some distance from the Hebo as well. So it'll have to be a big commitment from Jengaru and Nehu on these two gods if they're to make it work. But like you say, you can never count it out because at any moment things can flip on their head.
Yeah, if you're ever wondering how to climb the ranks in ranked, there's just one god for you, and that's Hebo. If you can play Hebo in mid, jungle, even solo lane, maybe even ADC if you wanted to.
Shout out to Anubis.
Shout out to Anubis as well. Anubis will do just everything quickly too. But he was just the typical, I'm going to carry this game god. And we've seen that at the beginning of Season 10 consistently, where wherever he's been involved, he has popped off unless there's a Fenrir on the opposite team.
Yeah, Fenrir, of course, the natural predator of the Hebo, but not in this game. Didn't see it even bend away. So the Aaru Scorpion's not interested in picking it. Miggy jumps all the way in. Whoa! Forces out that crushing wave, but Miggy now taunted in. The double combo coming through from the poise, but the knockup from the home sweet home. There's the synergy we weren't seeing, but the first blood will go the way of Nehu, and it looks like Jengaru will be able to retreat out as well. It was close from the Scorpions, but not quite.
It was very close. I mean, Jengaru must have been a, what, 100 health at absolute most? Maybe 50, I think, would have been a closer estimate of it. Like, a little rotation for Primitive, but very great play for Jengaru to stay in, stay aggressive, and help his team get his first blood. What really should have just been a return kill, though, with how low Jengaru got.
Yeah, it was really close, and we mentioned we didn't think there was a lot of setup for Miggy, and there's not. It has to be said, there's not a lot of setup, but the home sweet home knockup is the thing I did not see coming, and it almost paid off really effectively there. Jengaru clearly wasn't prepared. Very often we'll see gods fighting into a Wheelix pick up purification beads early on to avoid a situation like that, but I mean, Jengaru probably thought like we did. There's no knockups on their team. I don't have to worry about it. Almost paid the ultimate price, but gets away with it this time. Maybe next time they won't be so lucky.
I'm just wondering how they convinced Bayonary to go with this. Hey, I know we picked the Wheelix, and we need some synergy, so what we're going to do is we're going to have you in the middle of everybody, sacrifice yourself to get a knockup, and we're going to kill the person who kills you. Good? Alright, good. No mid laner ever goes for that trait, by the way. They are greedy and want to stay alive as long as possible. So Bayonary is doing the ultimate sacrifice here.
Well, it's a good way to get prophetic cloak stacks, which we have seen some Baba Yagas building, but not yet from Bayonary, not opting for that item. They do have the tried and tested Spear of Desolation and Divine Ruin, but Nehu and Jengaru and Snetty all fully aware this is like walking to a store trying to take something without paying, as Anxious will take a lot of damage, including with the help of the Pyromancer. He'd go swinging after Jengaru, diving towards this Circuit, but will not be able to close the distance. It was all a bit of a scrap over the Pyromancer, so they turned it into a bit of a scrap over nothing else, and everyone will return to the safe sides of the map.
He's suddenly got the need for speed as he's got his breastplate of regrowth. I mean, you saw how fast he was on that horse. He was at the Pyromancer, got on his horse immediately. He's over the other side of the mid lane, and well, they've tried once. They're going to try again, and this time looks like it might be a bit more successful.
Ooh,
but that's a steal.
Snatty just swoops on in, says thank you very much, takes away the Pyromancer bomb. We'll carry it on back to their solo lane. And I mean, the Scorpions, like you said, they tried it once. It didn't really work out for them. I'm not sure what the thinking was to try it again, but maybe that one was also ill-advised.
Well, they saw everybody disperse. Maybe even saw some people go into the left-hand side jungle and thought, okay, they stopped us last time because they grouped up. They're not going to stop us this time. Even if it's just a Horus, we're going to win it this time. Oh, the Horus stole it. We didn't expect that.
Didn't see that one coming, but he has spotted Jengaru coming. That's a nice Cobra's case. The Jengaru's having some fun. Just stands in place. I know you're gonna beads this heat, and he obliges with the purification beads there. And Jaro and Gaiji scrapping it out. The Blades of Retribution do come through, only to secure that shield buff. But Gaiji rolls forwards. There's nowhere that Privative is around, but Miggy also nearby. Again, a lot of posturing, but not quite happening just yet. I think these two teams watched how fast the SPL went and decided they want to slow things down a bit today.
Yeah, they think, okay, we need to give these people at least 8 hours of Smite today.
Exactly.
So we've already had, 4? So don't forget, guys, this set's going to go on for 4 hours, so grab your popcorn, grab your drinks, grab whatever you need to survive 4 hours of Smite.
I need more water.
I need something stronger than that myself.
Jengaru's in. Miggy is out. Low health. Will they survive? The ambush will make sure Miggy does not. Heed will try and make something happen. Does get the stun of the cavalry charge and plenty of shots. Bayonary as well with a long rotation over, but it's just too difficult for this Baba Yaga to commit themselves forward. And that's a second kill on the board for the Athenian Sages.
Calculated is what I'd say the Athenian Sages being right now. They don't want to slip up and lose the final hurdle on their path to Masters, so they're taking it slow, they're taking it methodically, they're making sure that they don't give the Aaru Scorpions sort of this opportunity to get into the game with this draft that they have. But because the Aaru Scorpions draft, it screams to me of snowballing. Rama, probably one of the biggest snowball hunters out there because his kit relies so heavily on basic attacks. A Wheelix, when she gets going, she's very difficult to stop, as is an Artio. If she's ahead, she literally carries games by herself if she's ahead. So the Athenian Sage is playing it carefully to make sure that the Aaru Scorpions can't get that chance.
They're playing it slowly, but also posturing correctly, right? They are stepping into these aggressive positions without committing too heavily, unless there's a clear opportunity. And we saw that, of course, Miggy, no purification beads on the Wheelix means that you can just get CC chained. You know, if you let that one happen, and pulled it off fantastically. Did the solo jungle combination of these Athenian Sages. But we are 14 minutes in, and a slight 2k gold lead building up now for the Athenian Sages. It's just been their map right now, and we haven't seen quite enough yet from the Aaru Scorpions, aside maybe from that Pyromancer attempt.
Yeah, we've seen one thing, but it didn't go quite according to plan for the Aaru Scorpions. But they're still within touching distance of the Athenian Sages. And like I mentioned, with it being a snowball-ish composition from the Aaru Scorpions, there's still that potential where they can just come online at any point. They can win a fight, and all of a sudden you'll see that they're 3,000, 4,000 gold ahead themselves because they've taken 2 towers, a Gold Fury, and a Pyromancer in one fell swoop.
Well, the Gold Fury still stands strong so far. Pyromancer is about to respawn. Now, he takes a lot of damage to Snatty here. Doesn't want to give anything up cheaply, but no rotation in just yet. Privative making a dash across, as is Miggy. Snatty is actually the one maybe caught unawares. Will get pulled into the tower, takes a shot. There is a bit of damage onto this horse, but the backup has arrived through Privative and Jengaru. He's still low health. Certainly needs to be careful because Jengaru will do that amount of HP left. Now the blue buff has spawned. Miggy will pull it forward. Looks like that'll be that. The Athenian Sage, because they found the bigger fish Bayron area in the middle lane. Absolutely everything combines to take down Baba Yaga.
Yeah, Circuit and Hebo in the jungle. It's nightmare fuel if you run into it. And the Pyromancer's going to fall down here as well. Athenian Sages take a big step towards securing a commanding lead in this game. They extend their goal lead to about 4,000. Still, the mid tower remains, which would give them great map control, especially on this left-hand side where that tier 1 tower has already fallen down.
They often say that situations like that are like a bit of a mini chess match going on, right? But that wasn't a chess match. That was a game of Connect 4. Because that was pure misdirection from the Athenian Sages. They posture on the right lane, make everyone think, oh, something's happening here. The blue buff's the target. Nope. Target's Bayron. The Sages switched that one up, literally like flicking a switch, and all of a sudden turn their attention onto that one target. And despite the purification beads coming out from Bayron, it's just not enough. This Baba Yaga went down pretty easily just then.
Yeah, it was never going to be enough to save the Baba Yaga. The second the knockup comes out from Hebo and you're surrounded by the circuit, it's game over at that time. And so far, it has been pretty much every single action going on in the mid lane. You have a look, 2 kills for Hebo, 1 kill for the circuit. On vice versa, Bayonary and Miggy, they died 1 and 2 times respectively. So mid-jungle combination really showing the difference here for the Athenian Sages.
We do now see the prophetic cloak being built up by Bayron. So opting to go for it late, but Baba Yaga stacking it fast. The advantage, I suppose, is that you can build it up late. But I mean, maybe could have done with that prophetic cloak a little bit earlier. It takes a ton of damage, as you do, getting hit by Nehu's ultimates. Not even using the crushing wave. That's just the other 2 ultimates. But Bayron, going to have to play it safe. But if you play it too safe, the Athenian Sages might just look at the Gold Fury instead.
Yeah, Nehu's not actually going to be on the Gold Fury, looking for the ambush around the corner. Going to get picked up a little bit by Anxious with a slow, which Privative has opted to go into the Wing Blade to try and avoid being the target of that long-distance route that RTO can pull out of her kit. Dashing it aggressively, trying to catch out Miggy, but it's not going to work out. But instead, in the mid lane, forcing out the ult from Bayonary already.
Oh, wow. Ton of damage onto Bayonary, but it's not quite enough. Also committing that Night Terror as well. Now, Anxious is in to provide some CC. I'll have to see exactly what the level of peel that is coming out from Artio, but it's a nice grab onto Snatty all the way towards the tower, but not enough damage and follow-up. They just can't lock down these targets that Miggy's pulling in.
No, and I think it's going to get even worse as Snatty, I believe, will be going into a Spirit's Robe here as his next item. Second he gets that online, the second you get pulled in by that Gravity Surge, he's taking less damage because of how tanky he then becomes with those mitigations.
Of course, those mitigations do have all the impact, and Guy now trying to step up. Haven't seen too much impact just yet, but Anxious in a lot of trouble. Gets caught by the last breath, trying to retreat as far as they can, but the health bars are so low for the Aaru Scorpions. And diving forward is Snetty. Getting the tick does Jengaru. Anxious will fall down. Snetty trying to solo out Baronary, and they might just do it, you know. They'll dive under the tier 1 tower. He'd low health. Getting caught now is Snetty. Up in the sky goes Guy J, but it's not enough. Snetty knocked up again. One more poke from me, he will do it, but they can't find it. Have to blink on away. It all goes wrong for the Scorpions.
And what's even worse is Renjaru still over on the Gold Fury, still able to take that objective down. So they lose 2 kills there. They also lose an objective. And that's going to be just translating into an even larger lead here for the Athenian Sages. To destroy the Gold Fury, finally pick that one up. 5,000 gold in the lead.
1,000 gold in the lead, 5 kills in the lead. It's all looking good so far for this 5th week. And Miggy taking so much damage from Snetty. It's a 3-level lead that the Horus has over the Awilix. Gets the fracture stun as well. Gets the knockup. Doesn't even need Jengaru. Jengaru says, thank you very much. I will take that killing spree. All the work done by Snetty. That's a 6th kill now for the Sages. The Scorpions need to find something, because right now it's just not happening.
This kill is yours. This kill is mine. It's mine. It's my kill. I will take this kill. Thank you very much. Done all the hard work for it. Never. It's Django is going to be screaming soloed left, right, and center at this point. And that tower does fall down as well. So even more gold into the pocket of the Athenian Sages as they continue to look for just complete map dominance.
A 7-level lead for Nehu over Anxious right now. And Artio really needs to be dealing some damage to be relevant, right? That's what you pick an aggressive support for. We see Jengaru invading on the right-hand side. Anxious takes tons of damage, yet again being dished out by Nehu. Can't quite close the distance. The Pyromancer is being pulled by the Sages, but the Scorpions are here in force. We might see our first full-on 5-on-5 because Renjaru makes their way to the mid lane too. Everyone wants to fight a bit, but the Sages are playing it smart and only taking a fight they know they're going to win.
Yeah, if they just need to, they can poke people out from a distance. They've got a good composition for locking and poking and just being obnoxious. And that really comes down to the Nox pick. The Nox locks you down from about as max range as she can. You're stood there for Hebo to then knock you up with little basic attacks coming from max distance for Enchari, which they can't miss. And you're just in a world of trouble like Bayaneri is.
Yeah, Baronary forced into the home sweet home, which will force the retreat from the Sages. That will be a crushing wave from Nehu. Not even sure they really needed it, but of course, it's always nice to play it safe, especially when you don't want to be giving up any gold to the Scorpions, who are posturing around this Pyromancer, but they know they can't take it when the Sages are around. It's just too much secure on the other side of the map. Gaijay is forced under tower by Renjaru pushing up. 6,000 gold lead with only 6 kills on the map. It's looking really tough for the Scorpions, and it might even look a bit tougher.
No, they're going to get out of that engage A-OK. Left-hand side, though, I don't think we're going to say the same for Renjaru, as he's going to be finding himself in a 2v1 very shortly. And that's his ultimate down. That's going to be the death of him.
That's a lot of damage on Renjaru. Catching the dash, whether intentional or not, from Gaijay does secure the kill onto Renjaru. So the Aaru Scorpions finally find themselves on the board. In the meantime, we did have a Pyromancer go down, I believe, the way of the Sages as well. And they will take a tier 1 tower in the meantime. Go hunting for some more kills as well. The Sages still having the better across the map.
Yeah, that is, unfortunately, the first death for the Athenian Sages, or fortunately, if you're the Aaru Scorpions, they're starting to show signs of life yet, but I do think they get the worst end of the trade. Yes, you do get a kill on Renjaru, shut him down, get Gaijay to level 20, and give a much-needed kill to Miggy, but you lose out on the Pyromancer, you lose out on the tier 1 as well, you're going to start losing positioning over on the right-hand side.
Whoa.
Well, it could be just this isn't a fire giant attempt, is it?
No way. It looks like it is in full view of the Athenian Sages, who have nothing else to distract them.
There's
There's no gold tree. I don't know. I think they're just 50-50 in this. Nehu's being zoned out by Heed. Heed gets a double stun, but it is a touch too early. Now Nehu finds themselves on the objective. The fire giant's very, very low, and the Sages take it away. Now Nehu does fall in the process. It might even be worth it, because you do get a big chunk of gold. Now Snatty in the middle of 4, knocking up everybody. Tons of damage comes on through. Jingaru, though, low health and actually gets caught in a tough spot. The damage is coming out, but the Aaru Scorpions' health bars are too low. They trade Fire Giant for a kill onto Nehu. not even a shutdown because Jengaru's the only one with the 3 kills. I'm not sure it was worth it in the end.
It definitely wasn't worth it. The second the hero gets in, you have to leash it. You do not have any secure against the hero crushing wave. It is the biggest secure on the map by a country mile.
Yeah.
And you still try and do it in front of the hero's face?
They're doing it again!
This time the hero's not there, so it's a little bit better for them to try this, okay? But it's still... I don't get desperation for the Scorpions, I guess.
Well, they're going to lock in the Oni Furies in their territory, and they will get an objective, will the Scorpions. So, all right, I'm seeing it. It's not completely, without merit, but I mean, it's almost strange from the Sages there. I do wonder why they didn't commit a bit heavier to that fight. I know it was a 4-on-5, but you got a huge lead. You got a Fire Giant. I think it might be worth taking that fight.
I think it might be to do with the relic situation. You have a look on that left-hand side. There's only beads on Nehu, who was dead, and Aegis and Ranchara. Everybody else, bone dry. So you can't really go into a fight when you have a look on the converse side of the Aaru Scorpions. Their carries have quite a few options to them, as well as that bracer of radius coming out from Anxious can just help amplify that little bit of damage in the fight. Best not to risk it. You've already got yourself Fire Giant on 4 members. Don't give them the satisfaction of getting more off of you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Playing it safe, as we discussed, the Sages have actually been doing, despite being aggressive onto Miggy, is Jengaru. That Wheelix just had no chance. 60 seconds on the Purification Beads means that the CC chain is all that more effective. Now, this Tier 2 tower going down without too much of a fight. Can the Athenian Sages break the base? We're only 25 minutes in, but it looks like they're going to go for it.
Yeah, they're just going to go for the fight to begin with, and that's going to be one down. Anxious falls. Jengaru lives and escapes to tell the tale.
Lives for now, and he also only for now is Ranchara getting the double kill. Now it's actually getting to be involved. There's the Runic Bomb. There goes the Phoenix. It's 25. Make that 26 minutes in. Athenian Sages looking for a double Phoenix take with the first Fire Giant buff. Now it's only theirs for about 20 more seconds. Snanny opts to tank it up. Bayroneri does some damage but has to retreat from Jengaru and loses the Purification Beads in the process. Snanny taking a lot of damage. Phoenix very, very low. Bayroneri into the home sweet home. But it's not enough for the Sages come away with multiple kills and multiple Phoenixes.
That is probably as good a first Fire Giant as you possibly could really imagine in a competitive Smite game. First Fire Giant, you really use to take down all the towers and expose every Phoenix. If you get a Phoenix, well done. If you get 2 Phoenixes, though, you've really have hit the nail on the head. You are really far ahead, and further ahead than you really should be at this point in the game. So well done to the Athenian Sages. They also have crossed that 10,000 gold mark. Near enough. It's about 9,000 now to the Aaru Scorpions got that objective. So it is at that tilting point where the Scorpions have to rely on the Athenian Sages messing up in these fights. Well,
they might have to mess up at a Phoenix siege, but it's going to be hard to mess up at a Phoenix siege when there's only one left. That does simplify things just a touch. Now, Snatty looking to 1v3 invade a blue buff has taken actually 0 damage from Anxious. Like it's completely full health. If anything, might have gained health through that battle. It's just not really working. What do you think the problem has been for the Scorpions? They've been showing up to these fights, but nothing's just going their way.
I think it just relies on the main problem that you see with Artia, which is lack of engage. Your engage is this long channels, single target CC route. Without Blink, you can't Blink stun anybody with your bear form. Yeah. So you're really relying on a long-winded engagement coming out from Heed or just a big counter-engagement. You can't counter-engage on a Hebo. Hebo just kills you on a counter-engage.
Yep, same with Cirquet, and kind of the same with Horus if the follow-up's pretty good, and the follow-up has been good, let me tell you. Now, we are seeing the Sages stall this one out. Oh, nice knock-up there from a Fire Giant, well placed. But we're seeing this split coming through where they have been sending Jengaru to the mid lane. Miggy can take this fight by virtue of that Magi's bubble coming through, but doesn't really want to engage, and it's all a bit awkward right now because the Scorpions kind of want to engage. Jengaru engages onto Miggy. Look at the damage coming up from the last breath. Now Miggy will survive through this, and that will mean that the Fire Giant is available for the Sages to take. Do they have the damage? Whoa, Miggy goes for the blink with less than 100 HP. catch-up crew comes on to this left-hand side. Jingaru might be in some trouble. Gadget rolls in, but a nice double talk coming out. There, it will be enough damage. Jingaru off the map, but the Sages running down the right lane.
I think if he saves the ultimate there for Gaiji, he gets a kill onto the Ram rather than getting Mickey. But all that time, all that chasing, Tier 2 tower and Bright falls down. Phoenix is under pressure now. It's a 4 versus 5. Don't forget the 4 do have Fire Giant and a commanding gold lead. So the Aaru Scorpions still have to be careful about this potential breaking of the base.
Well, this game has gotten a bit scrappy. It's gotten complicated for the Sages in a game that looked so simple, but we're now in a 4v5 situation. This is where the banana skin might be on the ground, and the Phoenix already down to half HP. Rinjaro with a massive stun coming out and out. Now Bayroneri firing the shots down, but Anxious is out of the fight. Primitive firing off their ultimate as well. Look at the sustain coming out through Snatty. Now the Scorpions, Phoenix is low. Well, 50% HP. Do the Sages want to go in? It looks like they are trying to. They're biding their time. Primitive takes the first chunk of damage, gets a nice root onto Gaijay. The Phoenix in the mid lane will come back alive. As Snatty takes a ton of damage. Miggy takes them down. Now they trade one for the Phoenix. Nehu very, very low, and the shots aren't enough from the Astral Barrage to finish them off. They get a right lane Phoenix to the Sages, but the left and the mid lane Phoenixes are coming back up. I think the Scorpions will be happy with that.
If they can get these Phoenixes back up to full health, yes, they will be very happy with that. But it's very easy for the Sages to just walk in and take those Phoenixes again, given that they are weakened. Now, Garo going to be securing the Primal Fury here for the team. And just look at that. Look at the amount of crits coming out. It's just with that Deathbringer. It's what we touched on before. And don't forget the Protector of the Jungle coming out as well, so extra 15% power whilst in the jungle. This build is monstrous to fight if you do fight in these tight, narrow corridors.
There's the Sona binding on there as well. There's that extra bit of defense coming through. There's a lot of defense on this circuit. Somewhat surprisingly, it just stacks up very, very quickly. So Jingaru's not the easiest target to take down. And that's why I think we saw so much focus on this circuit from the Scorpions. Now, only 3 members of the Sages with Fire Giant buff. Fire Giant taking a while to come back up, so maybe the Aaru Scorpions have just bought themselves a few extra minutes here.
Yeah, and it's precious minutes as well. I mean, look at the side of the Athenian Sages. Full builds pretty much across the board here. Yep. Even a cheeky Chronos Bender coming out from Primitive feel like he's got enough supportive tankiness right now. He needs a bit of damage himself. He wants to feel some numbers. But because they're full build, the gold lead is going to start mattering less and less. Aaru Scorpions closing on a full builds themselves, meaning that in about 3, maybe 4 minutes, you're looking at a tied game outside of Anxious, because Anxious is criminally far behind right now, still level 17, still needs a full item as well, and at this point, the support's just completely starved of farm.
That support struggling for farm, but does have the Emperor's armor to make this defense a bit better. Now Primitive dashing on forward. Shots coming out from Renjaru to clear some of this health bars. But Anxious actually took a shot there from Renjaru and didn't seem to struggle so much. So the main problem will be Jingaru in this middle lane. And of course, the Fire Minions pouring in the right-hand side. Now where did the Sages opt to take their engagement? It's a good defensive split from the Scorpions, and he'd more than happy to take this fight against Jingaru, and I think the Sages are going to have to back on away.
I think I know why, though. I'm not going to stop left. Fire Giant respawn 12, 11, 10. Why Siege a Phoenix? Yeah, why Siege a Phoenix when you can go get Enhanced Fire Giant and then Siege it even better? And just in 3, 2, 1, there's everyone's favorite new model.
Just bursting on through the wall. As the Aaru Scorpions are looking to do too, they are actually stepping up to this Fire Giant. Now, the Athenian Sages are more than aware that that is what the plan for the Scorpions will be. Jingaru looping all the way up the lane and has gone through quite safely. Bayroneri gets caught by a Cobra's Kiss, but feels safe enough to remain standing tall. Sage is looking for the fight, but like you said, the Scorpions don't seem quite so far behind anymore.
Yeah, the gold lead matters less and less. The experience lead pretty much negligible apart from Anxious, as we were talking about, still level 17. It's been 2 minutes, and he's still level 17. He must be close to level 18 at this point. It must be, what, a couple minions more, maybe?
You're not going to get any minions standing in the jungle. Now, we do see a split push coming through from Jengaru, which is so problematic for the Scorpions. This is where you just stretch the map as the Athenian Sages. You have all the territory you want, and this Fire Giant pit, and they also have the Secure. Now, Fire Giant has been pulled, but will be let go by the backline of the Athenian Sages. The Aaru Scorpions clearly want to take a fight, but it needs to be their absolute best fight if they're going to hope to get anything from this engagement.
Oh, but it's going to be anxious. Engage pod again. Rooted. There's a stun. There's a knock. It's a great engagement. Look who's going in. It's Heed.
It's Heed actually chasing everyone away with that cavalry charge. So that's ultimate for 2 ultimates on the side of the Sages. They will again look to pull this Fire Giant buff. Do the Scorpions want to contest? It looks like it's just Anxious. Miggy's far away, but will be too far away. The Fire Giant will go. Anxious has something to say about it. No, they do not. Athenian Sages get the all-important enhanced Fire Giant, but the Aaru Scorpions have bought themselves enough time to get all 3 Phoenixes back alive.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for the Aaru Scorpions. I like the idea of them coming out and trying to pressure into that Fire Giant. It felt like the right time to do so. Just 1 Phoenix now. In fact, the Phoenix has now survived and got back up, so it's all 3 Phoenixes at the ready for the Aaru Scorpions. And they just couldn't quite get into the Fire Giant pit in time, though.
Yeah.
I was surprised we didn't see Guy J almost hiding round the corners, hiding away from the fights as almost a safety deposit thing for this Fire Giant
Safety
steal.
deposit secure.
Yeah, it's almost like an ace in the hole, if you will.
Yes. It might have been worthwhile, you know. Like you say, it's an enhanced Fire Giant, which the Scorpions don't really need that enhanced Fire Giant, but it would certainly make this defense a whole lot easier because the Athenian Sages with it are going to be an absolute menace to have to contend with. Now, going for a 3-way push at the moment. Stepping up first is Privative, as does Nehu following him behind. Now, Bayroneri putting out their damage. It's Snetty for the mid lane. It's Jengaru pushing up the right lane up against Heed. We've got a sequence of miniature battles going on. I have no idea how we're going to follow it, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, mid lane has swapped over with the right-hand side, whilst the big 3v3 on left still remains the same. Jengaru pushing in now to try to defeat us, and it's gone. It's gone. He had the bomb.
Oh, right lane Phoenix gone, as is Miggy with that last breath. Now, this left side Phoenix still stands tall, but their right side flank has been corrupted. Mid lane Phoenix now falling down. It's like a domino effect. On the right-hand side, Miggy got given the better of by Jengaru, and that has left this base wide open for the Sages to walk into.
Very low health Titan stance. We've seen Athenian Sages and game number 1 in this best of 3 set on their quest to qualify for SMITE Masters. They're not going to rush in any way, shape, or form. They're going to wait for abilities to come back up, wait for relics to come back up, wait for the opportunity to go in. And Guy J,
wow!
He doesn't live in his own fountain!
In the fountain, Jengaru goes and gets the kill they needed. Now, Heed will return back to base. Very low health, and Jengaru will clean them up, and Snatty shall get the kill. Nehu now being chased out by Anxious. It's just Bayroneri on this Baba Yaga to provide the damage, and Anxious on the Artio to provide the defense coming through. But there's a crushing wave. There's the shots coming out, and there will be the Titan going down. The Athenian Sages in this final week find themselves already up 1 game, and it was a great performance from start to finish.
It was a little bit slower than what we're used to seeing from the Athenian Sages, but with good reason. They want to make sure that they qualify for this upcoming SMITE Masters. It's a great opportunity for them to test themselves against SPL caliber teams, and maybe even some of the other teams coming out from the SCC from Europe as well. Don't forget, 2 European sides will also fly out for the SMITE Masters coming in mid-June, so be very excited for that. But excited for the Athenian Sages. They, as you said, played an extremely good game here.
Yeah, it's an extremely clean game, right? It did get a little scrappy towards that 30-minute mark when the enhanced Fire Giant's up, when you are split pushing. How many times do you see a 3-pronged attack at a Phoenix Siege, though? It was an unusual strategy, but, you know, when Jengaru is just playing so well on this circuit and getting the better of literally everyone on the other team, it's hard to see why they wouldn't go for it.
Yeah, it got to the point where anybody going up against Jengaru would die. I think even if they had 2 people over on that right-hand side of Phoenix, Jengaru probably kills both of them. He was doing that much damage, doing that much crowd control. but he still finished second bottom of his team for damage. If you have
Wow.
a look, Snaddy, Nehu, and Ridge are all finishing roughly about the same, only 800 damage difference between the three of them. Then a huge drop off to Primitive as the support, which you understand.
When you find that all of the team is providing about the same amounts of player damage, it just means that for the team, for the opposing team, how do you deal with that? Normally you tend to find there's one target that you have to deal with, and if we kill Jengaru on the circuit, maybe we can have a look for the rest of the team fight. But it just wasn't happening across the board. The Athenian Sages played it fantastically, but we'll have to see if the Aaru Scorpions can turn this one around. We will be heading to a short break, but when we come back, it'll be game number 2.
Welcome to your new sanctuary. Run for your fucking life. Watch out. They are coming to fight you.
All right, everybody, we are back for game number 2 between the Athenian Sages and the Aaru Scorpions. Of course, this is the final week of this first phase of the SEC, and the Athenian Sages looking to come through this game as your top seed for the Masters, and based on game 1, AJ, they might well be able to do it.
Yep, game 1, job done. Game number 2, if they get the job done there, it's a quick 2-0. They can go to bed happy and they can sleep soundly, knowing that they'll be at the SMITE Masters in a few weeks' time, whilst the Scorpions will have to sweat in their beds as they have to go through the grueling relegations with the SOC teams, who would be on fine form given that they would be the top 2 in the SOC.
It is worth mentioning, AJ, that today on the broadcast we have had 2-0s across the board. If you're not being aware, it has been 2-0 every single game so far today, and that doesn't happen often where it's the entire set. So we'll have to see if that is the case as we head on in to picks and bans for game number 2. Now, with that in mind, AJ, if this is to be our only non-2-0 game, and it will be a turnaround from the Aaru Scorpions, which they are more than capable of doing, what would you say has to change in the drafts for that to be the case? What do the Scorpions need to turn around game 1?
Well, right there, they've done what they need to do, which is ban the Circuit. The Circuit from Django was untouchable in that game. Second thing they need to do is not pick up Artio if they don't have another form of engage. If they have somebody else that can engage, let's say an Odin in the jungle or solo lane, even though Odin's trash right now, don't pick Odin. But, you know, something like that. Yes, then they can have a look at picking the Artio up. But until that point, don't pick Artio.
You know, you're talking, like you say, Odin in the solo lane, maybe a Thor, again, be that solo or jungle, just someone who can start these fights off. Because the Artio really didn't have an impact in that early game stage, and if it's not having an impact early game, it's not going to have an impact later on either. You know, you really want to be starting off well. And I mean, we haven't seen, that might well be the first Artio I've seen in Season 10. Like, and I'm talking casual conquest, amateur leagues, slash games, arena games. I don't think I've seen an Artio at all. And I mean, we might well have seen why. It just really wasn't able to provide what the Aaru Scorpions needed in that game.
Yeah, and so far the other rest of the bans, they're pretty much exactly what you would expect. Nox going away as well, just take that away from Primitive. Hell is pretty much a standard ban that you do see. Sages still stick with that Bacchusora, the Martichorus going away too. Do they stick with the other god which they banned out pretty much straight away, or do they change it up? No, they are going to change it up. Umoja is going to be the one taken away here.
Moja off the table, of course. That does leave a lot open on the first pick slot. In particular, Aphrodite still open. Now, do the Aaru Scorpions want it? It looks like they're instead going to opt for the Terra. Now, Terra, Umoja, Aphrodite, and Nox, we've seen sort of be these primo supports coming through, but I don't know, is there a reason maybe the Scorpions wouldn't go for an Aphrodite here?
Teamfight potential, mainly because the Aphrodite, whilst decent in a team fight, I think the Terra is just overall better for those scenarios. They ran into the issue with the Artio last game of not having a good long-range engage. Artio's better, don't get me wrong, but still not as good as the Terra would be.
Yeah, and it makes some sense, you know. We're seeing Hebo and Rama coming back up for the Sages. This is great picks for them because, you know, they've had it in the previous game. It also doesn't really reveal a whole lot about the rest of the draft, right? That could still be a Hebo in the mid lane again. Could be a Hebo in the jungle. It does leave things open. That's a Mercury being hovered by the Aaru Scorpions, and it will be locked in as well. Mercury, we saw at the start of Season 10 a ton, and then they just sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. What happened to Mercury, AJ?
People got used to the map. People got used to finding the rotations, finding out where the best place to go is. And they also got used to Mercury shenanigans again, which is just ulting from behind your tower, ulting from behind the opposing tower, and just going to get killed that way. It has developed a little bit more. Crit has also been nerfed a little bit, so Mercury falls off a little bit in that regard as well. But I still think he's a really strong pick, and going up alongside the Terror, the Chernobog, it's a recipe for disaster if you're caught out by the duo lane there.
If you get locked down by one, you kind of get finished off by the rest of them, no matter who starts off the fight. Now, the Athenian Sages running back this top 3, and we did see a fantastic showing from Snaddy. It didn't unfortunately get top damage in the game. But for the most part of that game, that was a
800
Horus
away.
at top damage. Yeah, literally 100 damage difference, which Nehu decided to take away on this Hebo. Hebo's cheating for player damage. Come on, like, that's like 5 abilities that Nehu hit. There's 30,000 player damage. But Horus for Snanny was fantastic. Again, still flexibility though in this Sage's lineup. Aside from Rama, nothing's quite set in stone for them yet.
No, but just imagine the hypocrisy, though, of a solo laner saying your damage is fake. Like, for 10 minutes, all they do is just hit each other, just rack up 10,000 damage, go, yeah, I participated in this game, look at my damage cards, I did something, you guys didn't.
Because it's Golden Blade is also not even hitting each other, they're hitting other things, and then still getting damage. So, I suppose you got me there. Maybe that's a Snatty got a whole lot of the damage from, but unsurprisingly, we see the Aphrodite taken off the board now by the Aaru Scorpions. You just kind of can't leave it open, especially with the fact that a Horus is on the table. That is the extra engage that you were saying the Aaru Scorpions were missing out on. Well, that's in the kit of the Sages now and in the composition, so not too surprising to see them come through. Sylvanas, wow! Have not seen a lot of this god, and I do wonder if we will actually see this god, but we saw healers become particularly prominent after recent changes to healing, and that will be a Sylvanas, but not so much on Sylvanas. Could you maybe shine some light on why that is? Why haven't we seen a lot of this god yet?
He's just a very risky pick to sort of take up. He did recently get buffed, but don't forget, this is not the V Shoujo patch for everybody still. It's just maybe crept in between game number 1 and game number 2. We're still on the previous one, so no Sylvanas buffs just yet, no tier buffs just yet. So it doesn't get a stun with his ultimate, which is absolutely ridiculous, by the way, if you played against it. It is absolutely insane.
That's why it's picked 4th and not banned.
Yeah. But going back to Sylvanas, he just struggles a bit in terms of being caught out. So does Ra, by the way, which has just been... I mean, Bayoneri's Ra is something to behold, so I'm very excited to see this come out again.
Look, the thing about Ra is you just need to be hitting those shots. The abilities do a ton of damage. There's a lot of damage within Ra, but it's very tough to connect consistently, and even the best players on Ra will not hit every single shot. And I would say the jungle is not particularly favorable to Ra at the moment, with a lot of these curved sort of passageways coming through. But Cleaner coming through means that these curved sort of passageways might be taken advantage of by Jangaru here. And with the way that they played the circuit, I'm not surprised to see them go in a similarly sneaky style pick.
I think this actually is a really good option here by the Cleaner. It's not often you really say that, given that she doesn't really fit into too much of the meta right now, but when you go up against the Rai, going against the Chernobog, I think this does make a lot of sense. You can very easily get onto the Ra. Chernobog can't really fly to you if you're in the wall, doesn't even show you where you are on the map, so you sort of evade him a little bit better.
Yeah, of course, it has that little bit of evasion coming on through. So, again, we said it early, it's been 2-0s across the board. Will it be a 2-0 today in this game, or will it go to a 2-1? We'll have to see as we head on in to game number 2 between the Aaru Scorpions and the Athenian Sages. And, of course, we are seeing everyone where we would expect them to be. And I suppose it's all going to come down to who can have a bigger impact from the jungle early on.
Well, early game, you're going to be looking at Jangaru having a bigger impact. Cleaner, the much better fighter until you hit about level 6, level 7. At which point, Miggy will have his Golden Blade online, able to farm up a lot quicker than Jangaru will be able to do so, and therefore able to have more time available for ganks. So, depends on how early you wanted to talk.
Oh, no.
Primitive going in straight away.
Primitive goes for it again. That's a good stun coming through, and it will be secured by the Aaru Scorpions. Primitive goes for it. We'll take a chunk of damage from Gaijay, but that's almost worked out twice now for the Athenian Sages, but almost still doesn't count. Even if you do it twice, it doesn't count. But some more pressure now on this mid lane. Gaijay now taking a ton of damage in response. It just seems like the Sages are getting the better starts in this duel lane.
Well, they always will do with the Sylvanas effect. Sylvanas, ever since he got his healing on minions back with Wisps, pretty much has just been the dominant force in lane yet again. I don't think there's a god out there that actually out-pushes him at this point. Unless you're playing something really janky like an Anubis support. Please do not play Anubis support.
Why not? Why not? Break it down for me, AJ. What does Anubis support bring to the table?
He brings nothing. Okay? He only brings is a stun and maybe a slow. I can get that off of just one ability, okay? So I'm looking at something different for support.
Well, something different is what is in this game, luckily enough, and Miggy and Jengaru will up to brawl it out, and there's a good swipe coming out. Both sides wanting to fight. This is actually Jengaru will up to give up that battle earlier on. Well, Jungler's on this left-hand side again for this shield buff, and the early skirmish goes the way of Miggy.
Well, early skirmish goes this way, but early shield buff goes the way of the Athenian Sages. I think they're going to be a bit more happy about that in the dual lane. Primitive Aaru and Aaru can be able to push their lead a little bit more, but mid camps on right actually not going to be taken out straight away by the Aaru Scorpions. I thought it would have taken just both mid camps straight away.
Well, they didn't opt to go for both just yet, and in fact, it will be Scorpions now getting this second mid camp as well. Ra, of course, one of those guys that cleared these mid camps very well. In fact, it's quite tough to out-secure Ra, even over these mid camps. You know, that Searing Pain as well goes quite far, and is actually worth using on mid camps sometimes. You know, you don't really need to save that. Anxious dashing in twice aggressively. Did see the shard get used earlier as well. Gaijay, with the late purification beads, gets pulled, and there really wasn't a whole lot of follow-up there coming for the Chernobog.
No, if he's up against an Ulla in ADC, I kind of forget the beats at that point. But you're against a Ram. What's he going to do?
Yeah.
Basic attack you slightly harder? It's not going to work.
Oh, the damage coming out of heat. Wow! From Jengaru, swiping down, slashing through heat on this Tia. Maybe that's why Tia needed these buffs. It's not, by the way. He didn't need those buffs.
He
but
did
maybe
not.
that's why. Because Jengaru there, well, pretty easily taking down heat.
Tyr definitely did not need any of those buffs. That, have you played against him with this stun on
No,
his
I've
ult,
played
by the way?
Acid plenty of times. It's great fun.
It is so annoying just to be randomly hit with this. It's like the old times where you had Fist of the Gods, where you blinked in, Fist of the Gods. It's the training wheels combos. To just make sure you hit your Fearless afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds good. We should bring that back and keep this current tier buff. But we're getting off topic. The main topic here is that the Athenian Sages have got first blood, and it's given them this slight gold lead. It's on the target you would have wanted it on to, because Jengaru on this cleaner will have the biggest impact across the board. And unfortunately for Heed, there, Tyr has the best advantage against Horus at this stage, and falling down there is only going to make that advantage go away quicker.
Well, if they are the Athenian Sages and they want to just grow and grow this advantage, they need to have a look at more objectives. Specifically, look to take control of these mid camps, because they're probably one of the best sources of neutral farm in the game. And if you're letting them go to the Aaru Scorpions consistently, they're going to close that gap right up. In fact, it's what they've done already. Look at that. First blood to the Athenian Sages, but the gold? Even.
Yeah, very, very even. That's another set of mid-camps, of course, and Baron picking up a roaming harpy in the meantime. There is just a lot of farm on the map. You can't rest on your laurels, as the Sages haven't quite been doing that, especially with Jengaru going all the way deep here. I'm not really sure what Jengaru is looking for. I see. Oh, that's clever. That is excellent use of the ward there, and I don't think the Aaru Scorpions even saw that ward being placed. So, yeah, I mean, Miggy might well get caught by that very obscurely placed ward.
Yeah, if you're up against the Mercury in your casuals or your ranked game, make sure you do that to both your tower and the opposing team's tower. That way, you won't get caught by a Mercury ulting you down the lane.
Yep, it's the tried and true tactic from Mercury, and it's effective. The reason why it's done is that is a very effective strategy. But
fact,
looks
right
like
side?
Miggy's looking at right side instead. Now Snatty is way back under their tower, but trying to bait them out will be the Aaru Scorpions, and ready to pull the trigger is Miggy. Heat is killing this so slowly, and Miggy pulls the trigger anyway. Doesn't connect, and that's what happens if you don't set up that tactic perfectly.
He eventually reached max range on his ultimate and didn't quite get him too snatty, so he falls just short of the stun, which would have then given him the dash for free. So, free ultimate there for the Athenian Sages to chalk up as on cooldown. Miggy not going to be able to gank for the next 90 or so seconds, but it should be about 80, 75 now. So that is their ADC pretty much in a safe spot now for the next few minutes.
A purple buff invade coming out from Jengaru, and that swipe down, the slash is just so strong coming through. And I think we saw a bit of impatience from Miggy on that right-hand side. I think if this is game number 1, that doesn't happen. They're blinking through to the blue buff. Just can't be bothered to walk, I guess. Just doesn't want to walk around that corner. We'll get the invade off. But yeah, I think Miggy maybe is more patient with that and recognizes there's not really an opportunity that Snatty's going to fall for. But, it's game 2. It's the final week. You want to have an impact, and yeah, so you showed the hand a bit too early there.
Yeah, I think I agree with that sentiment. If he waited for Snelly to push up a little bit more, he could have got involved a little bit more so. But the more time he stood there, the more time he's wasting falling behind. Because he's already half a level down from Aaru, he's only just hit over to level 7 now. If he waits there any longer for he to be done and for Snelly to step up, he's potentially a level behind if that gank doesn't go well.
Yeah, and the gank still didn't go well, and still finds himself not quite as far behind, but yeah, Miggy, of course, wants to be farming up now, has that golden blade built up, will be farming quickly, and will have more time to have an impact across the map, but it's still relatively tight. Only the one kill so far in favor of the Athenian Sages. It's been a slow-paced set as a whole. It's almost like an EU game. You know, it does feel that way with the way that these two teams have been playing. But like I said, the Sages really want to lock this game in because if they win this, they head to LAN.
We take offense to that here in the EU, okay? We would have still had 0 kills at this point. We would have had 0 kills at this point. 17 minutes when we have our first brawl, okay?
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's far too early to be like even thinking about player damage right now.
Exactly.
It's not what comes out, but we do see again both sides going for all this contested farm, but trading it back and forth. Again, we see Anxious dashing on through. Now Rinjaro actually rolls into the wall there, I think, but there is the cleaner dashing on through the wall. Ton of damage onto this Terra, but not enough damage onto this Terra. That will just be a shield buff. Again, all the fighting is over this contestable farm, and both teams, well, very heavily contesting it.
There we go, left-hand side, Aaru water gain. This time, Anxious has spotted it out, so they do know it's happened, but he's dashing to the wrong neighborhood. Oh, look who's there, Bayonary, but no follow-up from there on in.
Tough guard to lock down, especially with a speed buff. And Bayonary going to very much struggle to hit a Searing Pain on a very mobile and wiggly cleaner. But, returns back to the lane. Bayonary is still level 10. Both mid laners farming up very well, but Anxious in some trouble, has to dash on away. And Garu it again with a purple buff invade. Just keeps Gaijay down. And, this Chernobog right now, especially with that global ultimate, not able to get involved so far.
Yeah, but with the amount of attention they paid over to this left-hand side, the Athenian Sages, the Scorpions are doing the exact same thing on right-hand side. Blue buff invaded once again. Back camps look like we're taking red buff is now going to be timed, as Nehu has to take it off on cooldown. Otherwise, well, Mickey was going to be there to steal it. So there's been this jungle split, which I expected in game number 1, but we didn't really see too much of. It's now happened in game number 2.
Yeah, both sides splitting either side of the map, and it has resulted in relatively decent farm for both junglers, but the mid lane in particular has been very quiet. We've seen both Bayonary and Nehu farming up, taking this game late for both these mages, which, as you mentioned in game 1, mages love to do. They love to just sit and farm up and be ready to fight when the action kicks off. But while Hebo is well known as like a late game hyper carry, right, does tons of damage, how would you say Ra fares in the late game? Because we really don't see a whole lot of this god.
I think he fares fairly well in the late game if your team comp suits him. If you're finding snipes and his tractor beam of death is one over the walls, you can have success with him. But success on this Gold Fury is what I think his Sage is looking at. It looks like they might get this for free.
Well, Sonic Boom's ready, though, from Miggy dashes through early, and the Aaru Scorpions cannot contest correctly. That will be a secure coming up from Nehu. And now Privative under some pressure from Anxious, but there's just nothing quite happening. Unfortunately, Bayonary not available for that fight. Now Sneddy in the mid lane, getting some setup onto Miggy, who has to retreat back to base. Not too much scrapping, but a Gold Fury in favor of the Sages.
And that's also the big nightmare from Gaijay down. That's a big ultimate to put onto Colin straight away. Pyromancer can be taken up here by the Aaru Scorpions, unless another steal. Ooh, not quite able to repeat his heroics from game number 1, Snaddy.
Snaddy, tries the same attempt, but Searing Pain sort of solves all of the secure problems that the Aaru Scorpions had in game number 1. We'll have to see if that can translate over into these bigger objectives later on, in particular the Fire Giant. Now, that is the first tower going down of this game, so still the 1 kill in it. But, again, decent lead for the Athenian Sages.
Oh, looks like yet another purple buff in me. Gaijay must be sick of seeing these people over here. Every 2 minutes, like clockwork, there's the purple buff. It's gone, guys. Can we please have some help? Mickey's going, no, I'm having too much fun farming this right-hand side of the map, please. Thank you very much.
Ooh, Snetty looking to finally try to contest this blue buff, but has to concede defeat there. And yeah, it's like you say, the left-hand side jungle, all in favor of Jingaru. Right-hand side, all in favor of Miggy. It's all sort of about these little extra camps coming through. Now Jingaru does get stunned out, and finally there's a green buff secured by the Aaru Scorpions. Now Nehu's on the rotation over. Will the fight continue on? Looks like it shall not. Miggy arrives on scene as well. This game is a powder keg, absolutely ready to explode.
The second that everyone starts to group up for a big 5 versus 5 team fight, you're going to see about 7 people fall in that fight. Guaranteed minimum. This is my Alpha Jackal guarantee. Alpha Jackal guarantee. Next big 5 versus 5 team fight, 7 or more deaths, okay?
I want to see one of those fights where like everyone is dying back and forth, and then it's just like the supports with like 100 HP each, just slapping each other for the final kill. My money's on Anxious if it comes down to that. I think Terra might have the winning of that, but it is all about this important first fight, because while you can build up these small incremental leads, like this 1,000 or so gold lead that the Sages have built up, it's not out of the realms of just one team fight swinging it, and you really don't want that to happen. So I expect the Sages to still be on the lookout for a fight themselves.
Yeah, I think it's going to be... Would it be the Scorpions or the Sages that really want to engage on this first real team fight? It depends on who's around and who, is available to be engaged upon. They could have a look at Gaijay here, as he's pushed very far up.
Oh, Miggy as well. There, here's the junglers and the ADC scrapping it out, but the damage is so good from Renjaru and Jingaru. And Miggy now, with only 100 health to work with, that will be a purification beast from Jingaru. They'll be more than happy with that. Renjaru is low, but oh, nah, for searing pain. Doesn't quite connect, and that could have been what the Aaru Scorpions need, but it's a 2-0 for the Sages.
Oh, that was so close from the ceiling. You can hear it ringing in his ears still, Renjaru. It was deafening to him how close that was. Unfortunately, for Bayoneri, still off the mark. You can get very close, but very close and missing is still the same result altogether. 0 damage on that ultimate, and he gets away with a sliver of health as Renjaru.
Jingaru picks up their farm, which is the enemy purple buff, as they have done every single time so far. But I was looking at the disparity in that left-hand side. Now, understandably, Miggy wants to make a play happen to help Gaijay out, but Gaijay's was 2 levels down, now 3 levels down on Renjaru on the Rama, and it just so happened that Jingaru was also around to make a play, so it just everything went all wrong for the Scorpions in the duo lane there. Now, there's a Living Nightmare has to come through, but low health bar for Gaijay. They will manage to stay alive, and hold on, there's a Horror Assault to come through, bring the boys to the battle, but it will just send away the Scorpions as the Sages pay attention to this Primal Fury.
Yeah, don't think there's going to be any contention here from the Aaru Scorpions. In fact, they're giving up, they're going straight to the Pyromancer right away. They know when they know what to give up. They know what is worth fighting for and what's not. And what's worth fighting for is this bomb.
Snetty on the loop around. Again, not going to make it work, but that was quite close. Snetty actually took a chunk of damage. I think actually got hit by the searing pain. Now Miggy trying to lock down this Horus, and they shall. Bayoneri with the first kill of the game for the Aaru Scorpions. It's come a bit earlier than it did in game number 1, but they still find themselves at a 3,000 gold deficit.
And a 3-1 deficit as well in the kills coming 15 minutes into this game. It was still roughly the same deficit, I think, in game number 1. It was about 4,000 gold maybe at this point. So yeah, keeping it a little bit closer, this game with the Aaru Scorpions. But the Athenian Sages still threatening to, as you say, explode like a powder keg at any point in this game.
Yeah, at some point, you could just see them burst into life, and there's a blink onto Jingaru. This would be a massive kill if they can find it. The walls coming through are fantastic, but it does leave a window for Jingaru to go through, and unfortunately, Anxious didn't drop the walls in time. That does mean that this time Jingaru gets out alive, but only this time. Now, at some point, the Aaru Scorpions are going to manage to connect, and there is a runic bomb to take down this tier 1 tower on the right-hand side.
There it goes. The objective on that right-hand side has fallen down. Left-hand side still strong, I would say, the tower and left side and mid. Can't say the same thing for the Aaru Scorpions tower, though, as mid lane and tier 1 on the left-hand side have both fallen down. So 2-1 reads the towers for the Athenian Sages. And looks like they're getting their anti-heal online a lot earlier than the Aaru Scorpions are doing. Divine Ruin and World's Beat Stick already built on for Nehu and Shengaru respectively. No anti-heal so far for the Aaru Scorpions.
I guess they're just looking to kill. And how effective that strategy will be will have to be seen, but no sign of a contagion or a pestilence coming out from Heed, but a jump in instead doesn't connect with the Fearless, but the damage from Birinari is good! And the Searing Pain is even better! That is how you shut down a 3-0 jungler.
And that is why you see Bayonne picking up his Ra once again. I love seeing Ras. I love seeing Searing Pain highlight moments like that. It is pure action, pure hype. And Bayonne is bringing it in staves this game.
Yeah, when you see a Searing Pain executed so fantastically, hits the Celestial Beam beforehand as well for that extra 500 or so damage. And make no mistake, Ra with this build right now hits so hard. As much as we talk about Hebo and how much damage they can do, Ra does about the same and does it much faster. Nehu, in fact, forced under the tower because Miggy goes for the Sonic Boom. Doesn't quite connect. Miggy, unfortunately, showing signs of maybe lack of practice on this Mercury, not quite connecting in the way you'd hope to see.
That was the first ult on that right-hand side missed due to not really knowing the distances and maybe being a bit trigger-happy. Ult missed there on that side. There's been a couple of instances as well where he's just been a bit too aggressive, a bit overstaying as welcome for the Mercury at this stage of the game. Maybe you're right, maybe there's a little bit of lack of practice or could be a little bit of nerves on the side, knowing that if the Aaru Scorpions do fail to win this game, it is relegations for them and it is qualification for the Athenian stages. And that sort of pressure on somebody in a do-or-die game can affect them.
Well, look, the good news for Miggy is if they've maybe not quite connected with the Mercury yet, because their team are more than in this game. This is a very even game at this stage, especially when you have a Mercury on the board. There is time for Miggy to start connecting. You only have to hit one big ult. Sometimes it can come down to one massive Sonic Boom. We've seen it before. Will we see it in this game? That's what we'll have to find out. But the Athenian Sages posturing and positioning for their third Gold Fury of the game if they can take it.
This time it will be the Oni Fury, probably the least valuable for them at this stage of the game, given that there's still Phoenixes up in every single lane. They're not grouping up to push down an objective at this point, so maybe, just maybe, Searing Pain off the mark this time.
Searing Pain was off the mark. I'm not sure it would have finished off Nehu either, but it does frighten them away. However, that is the secure burn for this Pyromancer. Snaddy's gearing up to steal it. It's very slow secure, but the Aaru Scorpions do take down that Pyromancer, and they seem to value it higher than they do this Gold Fury. Now, the only Fury goes the way of the Sages, but like you said, might not quite be the high-value Fury they were looking for.
Yeah, but have a look at the consumables slots right now for the Aaru Scorpions. Heed, bomb. Miggy, bomb. They can just walk up and take whichever objective that they really want to at this point in terms of the towers and structures. That's a solid 2,000 damage if minions are in 1,000 if they're not. It will kill a tier 1 tower. It will do nearly enough to kill a tier 2 tower, and it will do 2/3 of the health of a Phoenix. They can walk in and very easily take this right-hand side down.
Yeah, this right-hand side and the mid lane somewhat exposed, and we've already seen, in fact, that there are 2 runic bombs in pockets of the Aaru Scorpions. They've already used one on the tier 1 tower on the right-hand side, so, have been getting their use out of this Pyromancer, but the left-hand side tier 2 under some pressure from the Athenian Sages now, but damage is good in response. Bayonne goes for the Searing Pain, only connects with Privative. I think that's more of a warning shot, if anything, just to say, I do hit these, and you shan't come back again, for I will hit another.
Now go away, or I will hit you a second time.
Exactly, exactly like that.
Shout out to Monty Python, shout out to the reference if everybody understood that one, but it's such a short cooldown as well, Searing Pain. He doesn't mind just chucking out left, right, and center. And he's picking up one of our brand new healing items coming out. In the
I've never seen
Season of Hope. It's
wait, what's it called? Ones. Before it's highlighted, what's it called? I'm quizzing you. No, don't highlight it.
It's called Last Gasp.
How did you know that one?
I just knew. It's giving you extra magical power as well, which combined with the power you get from being inside your heal, meaning that that item could provide potentially like 200 power easily.
When you find yourself as a Ra coming under pressure, being dove as you would expect to do as a low mobility mage, that's when you have the perfect opportunity to use your Last Gasp extra damage. And we'll have to see exactly how it comes off. Again, it's a hard item to quantify exactly the impact that it has, but like you say, Bayoneri's played a lot of Ra, and maybe knows something we don't know about this item, but a huge commitment onto Heed on this right-hand side does leave the split push available for Gaijin, though, on the left-hand side.
Well, they have to get something over its right-hand side. Like you mentioned, Gaijin over on its left is going to get towers uncontested. But mid lane as well, looks like Miggy's going to get a mid-tier 2, as eating a little bit of damage there as Nehu. Are we going to see a base race here?
It's a strange base race. It's certainly not a usual time for it. There will be a teleport back to the mid lane Phoenix from Snaddy. This right side tier 2's in some danger, but it's a 3 versus 4. He goes for the blink, but it's slow, and they're searing pain. Not quite connecting. Nehu does connect, though, with that crushing wave, and still some minions available. It looks like it might be a time for a Phoenix push as well. They're in the base. Renjaru and Nehu do a lot of damage, as does Jengaru. They're going to slice down this Phoenix without a response from the Aaru Scorpions.
It's gone from bad to worse there for the Aaru Scorpions. They were in a commanding position there. 2 lanes split pushing, only one person go back to defend. We get a Phoenix easy there feeling, but instead they lose the Phoenix, only get the tier 2 in mid, don't even get the tier 2 in left because of the incredible defensive work coming out from Snaddy as he forces away both Miggy and Gaijin. And guess what? Fire Giants up as well. Athenian Sages probably put themselves in a good position to be the owners of this Fire Giant pet.
Look, that's the situation right there that splits teams apart. Athenian Sages and Aaru Scorpions are not far apart as teams, right? They are slightly far apart in terms of this first phase of the SCC, but the actual skill level of these teams is relatively close. But those sorts of moments where it's a tough call, what do you do? Who is calling the shots, and what shot do you call? It just ends up being that the Aaru Scorpions fall slightly off. They are very close to taking a Phoenix of their own. Like you say, end up losing the right-hand Phoenix. Now, it is just the right-hand Phoenix. It's not the highest priority Phoenix, of course, on the map, but it does mean that the Sages are more than in position for this upcoming Fire Giant fight.
Heed, Bayoneri, and Anxious over here on the right-hand side, as you mentioned, to be in position for this Fire Giant. Still over on left is Gaijin. Will have the Living Nightmare available to him at some point very soon. That diamond 3/4 full, as you can see on that left-hand side, meaning ultimate available very shortly. But he has opted to go back to base, to come back into the fight naturally. He was walking rather than flying in. So no split push coming out for the Aaru Scorpions here.
Well, the split push is instead coming from Miggy in the middle lane. Now, there is a response from the Athenian Sages. Snaddy and Jengaru return backwards. The Fire Giant does get started up, maybe just to draw in the Aaru Scorpions. Miggy forced to charge the Sonic Boom, but not fire it. As again, the jockeying for position on both sides, but the territorial ward coverage from the Athenian Sages is absolutely massive, even doubling up on wards in some spots, and they've got a good wrap around here. Instead, looking to turn their attention to this mid lane tier 2 instead.
Oh, Blinker from Heed's going to be ignored there with the ultimate from Primitive, and down the half health he goes. The Sonic Boom comes in to disrupt the fight.
Oh, the searing pain after the fact as well. Primitive just blown up. Look at the damage coming out. Gaijin is great, but the health bars are low for the Scorpions. Bayoneri torn down by Jengaru. Heed, low health, has to retreat. Gaijin manages to get involved in the fight, but can't output enough damage. There is a knockup coming through the slice again. Gaijin so low. 21 HP. And a dream that they can get back to base and just give up this tier 2 tower, and maybe even the Fire Giant afterwards if the Sages are feeling hungry for it.
I said in the next big 5, for the first 5 versus 5, there would be 7 deaths. I meant 7 people living, okay? It's all a mishearing. You have no evidence about it. Yeah, you didn't hear anything, but it's great fight there, I think, from both teams. Aaru Scorpions so desperately unlucky not to get more of that fight, because it was a huge searing pain coming out from Bayoneri. I think it hit 3, maybe 4 people alongside the Earthen Fury from Terra, making sure that everybody else was taking more damage. The fact that they didn't win that fight head over fist means that Athenian Sages just had a dominating counter engage from Jengaru once again.
Yeah, we saw Renjaru fly up into the sky in the Astral Barrage, and it seemed like their fate was sealed, right? It seemed like they were trapped. Oh, Miggy's fate might be sealed as well. There is the Aegis coming through. There's a Purification Beast as well. Started charging the Sonic Boom, and then cancelled it, because Snaddy's just going to give chase as well. Miggy has accepted their fate. They shall fall down. Didn't even have the Sonic Boom ready, actually. I thought I saw the animation go off, but instead it will be a Fire Giant pull from the Athenian Sages. How do the Scorpions contend with it?
Hope that Bayoneri can steal with his ultimate, but instead, look who's in the backside. Snaddy's trying to make sure that steal is not an option.
Oh, they're just chasing for the kill instead. Primitive, oh, gets the shot, but that gets the purification beats from Bayonary as well. And that might be enough for the Sages to feel comfortable pulling this objective. Snatty again playing zone duty, and they can't deal with this Horus right now. Bayonary tries to put some damage, doesn't even connect with the damage. Fire Giants, it's going down slowly. Not a large commitment from the Sages. They've got 3 people on zone duty. He trying to clear some space. Not sure where the engagement's going to come through. He steps on up. Bayonary stays in the backside. Fire Giant's very, very low. Guy J is now on the scene. Fire Giant at 10% HP, but the Aaru Scorpion's going to give this one up.
Yeah, Athenian Sages very expertly dipping and diving. They're going to dive right into the back line. Guy J gone before he can take off.
Guy J gone, Anxious gone, right side Phoenix soon to be gone, and this could even be the game because the respawn timers are quite high. Now, is there any CC chain combination coming through? There's a Celestial Beam, doesn't quite connect. Miggy putting out some damage to back up Bayonary. He can't seem to find where the action is. They have to give up this mid lane Phoenix as well. It's looking like a 3-peat from the Sages, but they can't get the Phoenix. There's a tier 2 tower on the way, which will just slow down the advance for a moment.
Yeah, Primitive looking for a pull, unable to find it. That's going to be the tier 2 tower falling down. Phoenix going to fall down as well, as you said. Going to be a 3-peat from them, just to make sure that they can get as much as possible without risking losing the Fire Giant from all members. Root's going to be off the mark. The pull's going to be off the mark as well, as Primitive pushes aggressively to allow the space for the Phoenix to fall.
He grabs onto one. Can they take down a target? Bayonary, though, knocked up in the Tearing the Veil coming out from Cleaner, and that will be the Ra off the map. The large artillery mage damage is gone. Anxious is almost gone too. There's Nehu with the crushing wave. Now Heed leaping over the wall with the judgment does hit a few people, and there's Miggy dashing through with the sonic boom, but the damage just isn't there. It's really not happening here, and the sustain from the Sages is even better. The Aaru Scorpions just can't find a window into these fights now.
Like you said, the damage just isn't there. With Bayonary gone and Guy J not around, he's not offering as much as you really would potentially think a Mercury could offer at this point in the game. I'd be interested to see the damage numbers as it is right now. See player damage coming up. He's sitting bottom apart from the supports right now as a Mercury. In fact, Terra and Anxious is sitting so close to him that you could even make a case for him being bottom damage in this game very shortly. That is borderline poor coming from a Mercury. And I don't like criticizing players. I don't like just basically saying this was a bad game. And this seems like a mispick almost with how ineffective the Mercury has been in terms of damage. If he's there, picked for CC, and that's what the composition wants it to be, fair enough. But like you mentioned, without any of the damage he was, without Bayonary Gaiji there, he needs to step up more.
Yeah, you need more contribution coming through, and of course the Bayonary taken out of that fight. That's the window, right? The window for the Scorpions is they hit some massive damage with Ra. It's getting to the point where that might not even be enough. We'll need to see some damage coming out from other members of the team. Now, Fire Giant buff still on the side of the Sages for a few more seconds, another minute or so, in fact. It's another 20 seconds or so. So maybe just threatening just to keep the rest of the Scorpions at bay, because forced Guy J back to base, because you can't split push when you might be losing the Titan. And it looks like the Sage is going to wait behind this wall. Primitive goes for the grab. Doesn't get it this time, but I'm expecting to see the Sages stay around for a bit longer.
Snazzy dropship into the Titan room?
Very likely. Oh, not unless Anxious just walks in to the greeting party outside. Now up to the sky goes the Rama, and there's Nehu to clean up the kill. Heed in some danger as well. The CC chain's pretty good, half health on this tier. Guy J flies down into a world of pain. Jingaru still alive, firing shots into Miyu. Can't find the kill. We just have 2 members in the fountain. Make that 1 member in the fountain, as it's a triple kill from Nehu. Miggy is sealed down. A rampage for Jingaru. He goes in to try to defend for their lives, but it will not be enough. A deicide for the Athenian Sages, and they take this set 2-0. 2-0 across the entire day, and it almost couldn't be cleaner from the Athenian Sages.
I see what we did there. Cleaner in the last fight. There we go. Very impressive. But very impressive game from Renjaro, just all round. I think both games, the jungler coming out here for the Athenian Sages performed extremely well, was more than enough than a handful for the Aaru Scorpions that they couldn't deal with. But again, jungle diff, I think that just all comes down to. Yeah,
it was a case where, again, as we saw in game number 1, the Sages were just so strong across the entire map that there were really no opportunities for Miki to make something happen. You know, we never saw them combine with Beir and Eri, not even a special delivery into a Searing Pain, which, you know, it's not always the easiest combo to hit, but sometimes you just pull it off. But, you know, we saw Nehu on this Hebo going Undying on such an unsafe mage. You can't really be having that happen, especially, like we said, when we've got a Mercury on the table.
And Anxious as well, only completing 2 items in a 30-minute game. It's not a good look. He's forced by a load more wards because his team are behind, need to know where rotations are. He's upgraded both of his relics to the maximum. You see, he had the upgraded Sunder, and he also had the upgraded Bracer. He just wasn't tanky at all, Anxious. You saw in the last fight, he just melted away.
Well, that is what we have to see from the Athenian Sages. They've been a strong force this entire phase, coming through with, I believe, 4 wins in a row, and expect to see this team at LAN. We'll have to see what they can do there, see if they can shake up anything. But, AJ, in a flash, that's it. Today is done. We've had 4 games throughout the day, all 2-0s, all been fast and pretty dominant. But, well, if you're the Sages, you just gotta be happy. So that is it from us today over on SMITE Game. Of course, I've been Judas Priestley, joined by Alpha Jackal. Of course, we've had Printers and Rosie as well, bringing you the game from behind the scenes. Well, it's been a fantastic day of SMITE. Don't forget, we still have more SMITE tomorrow, beginning with the EU SEC, and I think I'm on that one, AJ. I think I better get ready for it because that's coming up very, very soon. So we have a full day of SMITE coming tomorrow, and of course, then more for the final weekend of SPL and the SCC for this first phase. But we have been here. We've brought you some games. We'll see you again tomorrow.